Welcome to the Winning Sometimes show, where Emiliano, Matt, and I share our joy and sometimes hatred for all things gaming and tech, and generally don't agree on everything, and occasionally start a nerd fight. Speaking of nerd fights, today we're talking about two pretty broad categories of games: player versus enemy, also known as co-op, and player versus player. That's right, we're going to start a fight in real life about fighting in games. With new games coming out constantly, let's talk about what makes each game unique, and maybe which one is better. Because, as we all know, preferences can be objectively judged. So I wanted to...
True statement.
So I want to talk about co-op games and whether or not they're dead, because they're definitely a rare sight these days. Like, there's definitely a lot less co-op games than there used to be. I feel like in the PS2, Xbox era, and maybe even before that, like, co-op games were all over the place. Like action adventure, split screen, like actual split screen first person games. But first, player versus enemy, player versus player, PvE, PvP. What are these types of games?
Is that just an open question for us?
Sorry. Let's start with Ronan. Ronan, what is a player versus enemy game versus a player versus player game?
Player versus enemy is like player versus PC. So those are most like can be your single player games. They can also be like your friends get together and play against the computer. But it's basically you versus like the CPU, as I call it, or the AI in a game. Whereas player versus player is you versus another living body, or a bot, I guess, if there aren't enough people in a match. But usually player versus player is you against someone else, a living, breathing person on the other end. Right? I mean, anything else to add, Matt? Or is that pretty much...
No. That you pretty much hit it on the nail on the head. That's the colloquialism I'm looking for there. But I think probably the easiest way to think about it, or the way that I kind of divide it up in my head, if you want to be real basic about it, is if you think about like a PvE game, like a co-op game, a player versus the PC game. Those are the games that existed before like the internet became ubiquitous. And so if you can play it without the internet, it's probably a PvE game. So if you're curious if the game you're playing is PvE or not, if you don't have to have the internet, probably PvE.
There's a slight caveats to that statement.
Yeah,
like the couch co-op.
I have
the
one
couch,
game
the couch
to
stuff,
one exception to shatter that.
I probably have the same exact
if it's
game.
GoldenEye 64, I completely understand. But
which one?
I knew it, because you can't go an episode without talking about like GoldenEye or like Monster Hunter. Or, we all have our games we always talk about.
Sorry, Ronnie, you were saying.
Wait, did GoldenEye? Because mine was Halo, and doing like does GoldenEye out before or after Halo? I don't know.
GoldenEye was before.
Oh,
N64
was like
era.
like
GoldenEye was the game that probably started PvE in-person PvE, like, or PvP competitions, or like that is the game that a lot of people started playing PvP games on. And I know several people who either ruined whatever level of school they were in at the time because they had their friends over playing GoldenEye all the time. And same for Halo, but I have other stories for that.
So
see, because
the reason I say that though. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say the thing that almost ruined me was Quake 64, and there was a mod where you could do teams, and they had a grapple hook. And I think that's what almost ruined my college career. But that was a while ago.
What ruined my college career was my grades. Really, that's what it was for me.
I don't believe it.
But yeah, I never...
That's a story for another
I never
day.
really got into GoldenEye. I mean, I played it, the single player. And there were some like tournaments that I did. But I don't know. I feel like it never hooked me. I don't know why. Halo hooked me, but not GoldenEye.
I think for a lot of people, GoldenEye was the first time they played that first-person perspective, right? And you have not only... Because a lot of games back then were just adventure games, but in first person, if it was a first-person game. So you would go places, you'd look at things, but they didn't really have the two-stick maneuverability at the time. So like actually looking and changing your camera perspective, strafing, that wasn't a thing. So like with GoldenEye, like having, I guess what I'm thinking of is in contrast to something like Quake or Unreal Tournament or, you know, any of the first person, you know, original first person games, competitive games that people enjoyed on PC. But even then, PC was kind of not a niche market. Maybe it was a niche market, and I just don't want to admit it. But I don't know. I mean, people on PC have experienced that for forever, probably into the 80s. But people on console, I think GoldenEye was the first time that they had that opportunity to play that type of competitive first-person type of game.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so all that to say that basically if you're fighting another human,
yes,
it's a
anything
PvP
else
game.
is PvE.
And then yeah.
that's the most succinct way.
If this is your first episode listening to us,
Yeah.
strap in.
So actually, I don't think I can lead off because all of my talking points are building off of yours. So what do you guys think? Is co-op dead? Is PvE better? Is PvP better? What do you think?
All right, before we get into this, I just want to go on record that Clint has definitely just said that he is just here to argue with us. That's kind of what I just took away from that. It's like, I'm going to listen to your points and then counter
I
them
used
whether I believe it or not.
constructive verbiage. I said I'm building off of your arguments, right? We're building together an episode of amazing
In the
entertainment.
way
and
that
fun.
Mexico City was built on top of an Aztec city.
Oh, too soon.
Sorry.
Too soon.
Sorry. Hit too soon. Like 2,000 years too soon.
Actually, it was only like 400. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm thinking Mayans. Sorry. And the Spanish didn't conquer the Mayans. They were already gone. Anyway. God,
History sometimes. With the winning sometimes cast.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, no, so like what you're saying, like, are single player games dead? For those of you who are not as big of nerds as us, which is actually I have no idea what our demographics are, but what we're talking about, where that comes from a lot is about, I think, a decade ago at this point, there was an EA exec who talked about how single player campaign focused mission or games and things like that were basically going the way of the dodo. And so he basically said that PvE games, single player, those games, I think the exact quote is like that model of game is finished or whatever. That, in my opinion, is complete and utter crap. Like,
He was just
that's ridiculous.
plain wrong. It's like PC gaming. Every executive that has declared PC gaming dead, or every executive that said the internet wasn't anything big or anything special, or like all these people that just suck at making predictions. Let's say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even just in recent memory, there are a lot of games that contradict that. Now, I have not played any of these games, and maybe this is something Emiliano can talk about, but Sony, their exclusives were single-player games that were supposedly really good. God of War 3,
Just
4,
God of War. Yeah.
all of them?
Just God of
I don't
War.
know.
The newest God of War is just God of War, which is
Boy.
it's 5, I think, in the timeline.
Is it? Okay.
4.
I don't know. The Spider-Man one that also came out on PS5 is supposed to be really good, and those are all like single player kind of games. And so I think that the idea that the single player game was at its end 10 years ago is obviously verifiably false. But I also think that even if there are a lot of multiplayer games out there, it doesn't mean that a PvP game can't be successful. And Emiliano, maybe you can talk more about that, because I know you played God of War. And I don't know if you played Spider-Man, but I know you played God of War, and I know you enjoyed it. So kind of what about that was, I guess, so enjoyable for being a single player dead game
Well,
type.
Like, I feel a lot of times a single player game, or an offline game, whatever you want to call it, can be kind of more focused or more tailored to the experience. Like Spider-Man, the act of just swinging around the city was incredible. Horizon Zero Dawn is another great example. The movement, the bow and arrow, the interfacing with the different mechanical beasts, it all just fit in so well. And then additionally, a lot of times the thing that single player games have that is a lot harder in like PvP only or live service. Oh, well, hold on a second. Hold on a second. But a single player games, their story a lot of times can be just so well put together and really, take you on a voyage. Horizon Zero Dawn's story is fantastic. Like I got really invested into that. Even Spider-Man's story, it was kind of like an alternate take on Spider-Man, but it was still so well done. God of War, fantastic. This father-son, and the father paying for his sins, and oh god, that was such a good, and I look at like a lot of these PvP focused games, and Destiny isn't necessarily PvP focused because it has kind of both, but I feel like its story is so lacking, when you're playing it. Like in order to get story, you have to go read some lore books or go offline somewhere. So for me, a lot of the enjoyment comes from single player is the rich world that they create, the storytelling and the gameplay kind of all coming together. And then you have different difficulty levels depending on how you want to do, take it easy, or, have the computer be like really hard. And usually difficulty with PvE games is either the enemies are more accurate or they get bigger health bars, or both depending. So, yeah, I mean, like I'm a fan of PvE games because I love that storytelling. I love that, that rich world that they create. So, but and to your statement, Matt, too, about the single player games being dead, I feel like that kind of leads us into a kind of a little sidebar with live service games, because a lot of times live service games have both a PvE component, but then also kind of a PvP part as well. But in the end, it's all just to make money, I feel like, and I think that's kind of where a lot of these games have kind of really screwed the player, which I'm not a fan of as well either.
Right. So. And to that point, kind of something we didn't really talk about, a live service. If you're confused about what Emiliano is talking about when he says that, basically it is a game that is continuous, like where they're constantly adding new updates. Like if you think of like World of Warcraft, that is like the quintessential live service game. It's always online. It is a persistent world. For World of Warcraft, they make you pay a subscription, which is also a hallmark of live service games, is constantly paying them. But I'm not going to get into. That's a completely different soapbox that we're not getting on tonight. Well,
I don't know. I mean, I feel like that kind of has part of what we're talking about too with PvE versus PvP. Because PvE doesn't have to be single player; it can be cooperative as well. And a lot of these live service games kind of focus on that cooperative aspect. Like World of Warcraft. There's raiding parties, there's raids. There's arenas or something. Yeah, I haven't played World of Warcraft in a long time.
Yeah, there's dungeons.
Live service games can be
all kinds
and
of
a lot of those you need people to finish. You can't do them solo. I don't know. Can you do them solo? I don't know. Okay.
No. Oh well, you could try. It's if you did like one of the very first ones when you're at current max level or something. But yeah, fringe cases people will try and solo them. But
one game
really
that we all
possible.
play is Destiny. Destiny has that kind of cooperative content, that high level content for PvE, single player. Well, cooperative and single player. And some of these like co-op levels, like dungeons and the raids, people have soloed or duoed, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. Like to me, that's like high level, high level play. Which who has time for that? I don't have time for that.
I think that's his way of tossing it over to Clint.
Oh, because I have time.
Well, no.
I was gonna say, who does that high level
Oh.
sweat lord
Yeah,
play?
but he does the sweat lord on the PvP side. You know, he's on the other
Okay.
side of the fence.
Okay.
You know,
So
like go ahead.
I don't disagree with you guys. I think that it kind of sounded like you were starting to say that PvE games really invest in the story and they really help the story come out, in contrast to saying like a PvP game doesn't. I honestly didn't really think about that. I mean, if story in games is your priority, I can see how that would be a good thing, or how that might be true. Um, for me though, it's all about gameplay. So, is it fun? Like that's what I want out of games. I want to relax by having fun and getting immersed in a world or immersed in a mechanic or immersed in a struggle, like a challenge or a struggle, right? And if I can improve while doing it, that's all the better. So I just want to I just want to put it out there that the first recognizable video game ever was a PvP game.
Which one?
Pong.
Pong.
Oh,
So like video games are not necessarily about story because you used to not be able to tell stories in video games, right? Unless counting,
That's what I was gonna say. The story
Yeah.
in Pong sucks.
which is like that is the condensed argument against PvP games being about story. Now there are games with PvP in it that have plenty of good story, but for me it's really about is it fun, and I think like I didn't intend to bring up Pong and kind of rely on it, but people found Pong fun. Why did they find it fun? Well, it's that core sportsmanship drive that that you might, if you have a drive for sportsmanship and pitting yourself up against other players at a known rule set, a known game with the rules with rule set and variety of possible performance, like that is what PvP is about. So I am not against PvE or again. I don't believe co-op games are dead. I mean co-op games. That I'm gonna address that in a sec. But I don't think single player games are dead. Like I would say that 90% of the games in my life that I have really enjoyed and are probably in my top 50 list of favorite games of all time, those are all single player games. And each of them are for different reasons. Some of them are great stories. Some of them are just like extremely nostalgic. Some of them are just pure fun to play. Like, V, I think it's 6 Vs, is like a platform game in which you can reverse gravity and you can walk on the ceiling and then you can press a button to reverse gravity anytime. It's like there's no story to that. It's like you crash on this planet or whatever, this dimension with your ship, and all your crew gets scattered and you go find your crew, get back to your ship, and then you leave. That's it. That's not a great story, but the game is so fun to play. It's like the music, and it's like it is a work of art with how they take the mechanics and the colors, your visual experience, your auditory experience, and it all blends together into this thing that just vibes. It vibes well. and that's what it's all about for games for me. That being said.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that, Clint, which I know is not a phrase.
You've been saying it a lot lately.
But, well, oh, God, who am I becoming? I don't even know who I am anymore. No. But I absolutely agree with you. And I also agree on the fact that I think like PvP games sometimes lack in the story. And the example I'll use on that is, as both of y'all know, recently I have been able to play Destiny 2 with Rachel and her brother, Raywin91, for those of you who don't know. And it's been really interesting because even though Rachel has been, watching me play Destiny for years and all that sort of stuff, she's still like, okay, I know like 3 characters in the game, but I like shooting things and picking up the loot. And that's all she cares about. And I'm sitting there trying to explain. It's like, oh, well, you see, the Elixni are, a race of people. And
also known as the
she's like,
Fallen.
okay, but do I shoot them or no?
Shoot, yes.
Like, Yeah, and shoot him.
That's hilarious.
And so she, and like seriously, like listen to the
Yeah.
streams sometimes. I'll be sitting there and I'll be like, oh, so just so you know, like where we are is this, and like, so we just kill all the things, right? I'm like, yeah, just kill all the things. It's fine. And so, absolutely, if the moment-to-moment gameplay is fun, it doesn't matter what the rest of it is like. If there's a good story, if it's PvP, if it's PvE, anything like that. If you like the game, you like the game. We like what we talked about, like the very first episode. The games you like, or the good games are the games you like the way you like to play them. And so, if you like them, more power to you. If you like shooting stuff and picking things up, hey, I got a game for you. It's called Destiny, right? So, 100% agree on that.
Well, I was going to say...
yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
with my points, like, I'm not saying story is the number one thing with PvE, because that has to be paired, like you're saying, with good gameplay. And the games I had mentioned, the gameplay, the controls are like top notch. Horizon Zero, like on the Sony side, Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Spider-Man, incredible. Like just what the devs have done with the controls and the game itself it's mind-boggling. And then on the Xbox side, see, I'm trying to think of any exclusive Xbox stuff. Is there anything exclusive?
Halo's coming out.
Oh man, yeah. Halo was one of the games I went hard into PvP with, but that was more like the LAN parties that I did, and that was fun. But yeah, that's another. But anyway, I'm sorry, Clint. You're making a point about relaxing with PvP, which is crazy. But
there's plenty that Xbox has. I just haven't been in the Xbox world for a little while.
Well, but I feel like a lot of what Xbox has is across all the platforms. It's not exclusive to Xbox.
There are a few. I just can't think of them right now.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is,
I can open my Xbox app real quick.
All that said, PvP has a place in my heart because I am a competitive person. Like, not in a malicious competitive, as in like a caustic competitive, right? In which I must win no matter what, or I must win and you must lose, right? Which, at a certain level of competition, there's a place for that. Like, upper tier athletes can be like that. And that's fine. That's probably how they made it that far.
Are you calling yourself an upper tier athlete?
So, no. No. I am not a win and you have to lose kind of person. Like, if there's a way we could play together and still play PvP, I would want to do that. And in fact, I love when, to wax nostalgic for a hot 30 seconds, like playing in our gaming clan, which was the tacos, and having Iron Banana nights where we'd all get on and we'd have party of 6, and we'd have like 3 parties of 6 because my Xbox Live would only go up to 6 players. And actually the team count was only 6. So we'd have full parties and multiple parties, and people would jump in between parties. We just have like 50 guys and gals like playing and just having fun and winning or losing in a PvP arena, right? That is so fun. But I guess what I was going to say is that I am a competitive person, and so I do enjoy I do enjoy PvP a lot. And I was thinking about it, and for me, it is the thrill of the challenge. Like, when you play against bots, they're one of two things. Like, moronically stupid, or impossibly hard. Like, they're either computers that are ultra optimized, and their state machines are just perfect in every way. They can pass the Turing test. It's like... or... they just are so sabotaged by a lack of balance in their efficiency settings. I don't know. Like, this bot can move really fast, and they always pick the right place to go, and they always see you before you see them, and they always kill you or whatever. It's like, that's not fun. Neither of those are fun. Killing things that you can always win against.
That's my PvP experience. What you just said right there, where they see me first.
Well, hang on. We'll talk about that.
That is my PvP. That's why I'm like,
Ronan,
PvP.
stop.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I'll tell you why I'm like, ugh. But let's continue talking about like computer bots though. Computer bots are either something that's boring to play against because, you're always going to win against it. It's impossible to lose. It's like if you ever played Overwatch, it's the Overwatch training. It's like if you mess up or you're very very new to the controls, which is totally fine, you won't die to the bots, or they always kill you, and it's like there is nothing I can do except become an amazing like godlike shooter man, right, to win. So when you play against real people, there's a normal distribution of normally skilled people, right? It's skill-based matchmaking, right? There's a normal distribution of high-tier players, which is the bottom of the curve. On this side, there's not that many people, and then on the other side of the curve, there's not that many people who are just like can't play the game, right? Most people are in that 60% of they can do pretty well. They might have moments of glory, or they might also choke, or choking is failing in the situation. So like that's what it's about. And it's like it's not RNG. It's like more organic than RNG, but like when you go against like one of the games I play a lot, and I'm going to try not to talk about it too much in this stream because I've got a lot of thoughts about it bottled up, but is the Battle Royale game Warzone, Call of Duty Warzone. And you have 150 players, and they're normal distributions in that set of players every match, right? And I mean, for various reasons, and I won't go into the salt, but there are cheaters in the game, and it's a really big problem. So they get eliminated. Like most of the lobbies get eliminated by the cheaters when there are cheaters. But in a normal game, you go in and you have like any team that you go against, they could be really good. They could have a 2 to 3 KD, or they could just not even see that you're there until you surprise them. And it feels good to like come in. You go in, you make a bunch of decisions, and you get your loadout, which is your pre-made weapon, configuration, and then you decide, well, the circle's coming this way. We need to be here. There's a team over there. Why don't we go see what they're doing? See if we can, third party them, which is, wait until they fight another team, and then you go in and blow out both teams.
Kill steal.
Yes, it's like throwing a grenade
Effectively.
in between two people fist fighting. So, anyway, there's lots of different strategies you could do, and it's like it's very so good. It's so good. It's so fun to have a plan that you don't know if it's going to work, and you're like trying to figure out what's the best way to execute it, and then you pick a way to execute it, and then it either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, if it's a good game, you can figure out why it didn't work, and then you can get better, which is my next point, which PvP is about getting better for me. So I'm the kind of
So I'm gonna interrupt you because the way you phrase that implies that PvE is not about getting better, or it is in some way you're unable
not at
to
all.
get better in PvE.
I apologize for that implication. That's not. It's a mutually exclusive. I mean, those are not mutually exclusive, right? For me, it's that having a real player behind the other controller or the other mouse and keyboard is that element that makes it a little bit spicy, I guess. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, in a PvE game or a single player game, for me, I'm not really going to be focusing on the mechanics or the demonstration of skill, depending on the type of the game. Because like roguelikes, Hades, I've never played Hades, but I know it's the type of game where your inputs really change the way the game plays, and the game is mostly about the game, the actual game mechanics. In a single player game, I'm going to be focusing less on the performance of myself and more on the success and the story. So a lot of times in single player games, the story is an impediment, or not the story, the mechanics are an impediment. It's like those mechanics better be good and fun enough for me to get to the next part of the story, because if they're not, I'm going to be way less motivated to get to the next part of the story. Like I've stopped playing games because they were not fun to play, right?
Well, here's a question then too. Like, have you played like Dark Souls like game? Because I feel like that you talk about like PvP being competitive and improving. I feel like on the PvE side, you have games like Dark Souls that are very like input and time sensitive to your reactions. It's also reaction speed too, but like if you mess up, you're usually gonna die. So I mean, like, do you like those kinds of games or not? Because
No.
they have very
Cuphead.
similarities between like PvP getting better with PvE
So
also getting better.
this is absolutely where I kind of have to bare my soul. I would consider Dark Souls style games or Souls style games to be a mirror, right? When you play those games and you put yourself up against those mechanics, you have no doubt the result of that encounter is a reflection of your own skill level. So if you go in there and you fail and you knew the parameters of the engagement, you knew the parameters of what was going on, and you fail and you know why you failed and it's probably because of you, that reflects right back to you, and it's like, I don't like that. I don't.
But I mean, but PvP is the same way though too. Because like with PvP, like when I die, I'm like, I know why I died. It's because the other guy did this or that, or I just that movement. I don't know.
So maybe so. I have definitely gotten better at gun skill, which is a way to say the way your hand-eye coordination works, and the way you move the mouse or way you move the controller stick to point at the enemy and shoot successfy or whatever. I have definitely gotten better at that, but my whole I am not a high tier player. Like I am not streamer level efficacy in games. The only successes I have ever earned are looking at how I play and trying to figure out how can I overcome this obstacle. Whether it is, I just better gun skill. That person just completely destroyed. They smoked me. There's nothing I could do about that in that situation. That happens from time to time. Most of the time with PvP games, you can take a look at, okay, what did I do before that engagement? How can I avoid that engagement in the future? Or how can I get the upper hand? How can I put them at a disadvantage, right? So that makes me step back and think, okay, before I walk into a room, before, I need to gather all the information I can about what's going on in that room. It's like the enemy who I know is better than me is in that room. How am I going to beat them? Well, if I go up head to head, human versus rhinoceros, right? Humans can kill rhinoceroses. Don't kill rhinoceri. They're going extinct. Please don't do that.
I know, man.
Bad example.
Your examples are towing the line, man. I don't know what's going on.
I know.
Today,
Let's reel back. Don't kill rhinoceroses, please. I'm just saying a bigger enemy than you are. If a person is more skilled than you, you can still beat them. And that's the thrill of it for me, because it's like, how do I do that? Well, it's about pathing, which means how can I make sure that there's a wall that he can't shoot through or they can't shoot through between me and them at all times until I'm ready to shoot. Well, that's about how I move.
I want to ask you a question then. And so, this may not be a thing in Warzone. I don't know. I've never played it. Because what you're talking about is one of the reasons why I've talked about it in previous episodes, why I loved StarCraft and StarCraft 2, because it was 1v1, it was very known quantities, you just had to know where things were, maneuver, and everything like that, and you're just like, oh, that guy can click faster than me, or he positioned better, or whatever. With modern, I'm like being very specific because this goes into like Ronan's live service rant that I'm sure he has ready. With modern PvP, especially shooters, the issue that I run into a lot that drives me nuts and I hate is not that, I run into the issue of people being better than me a lot, but that's not what I'm going to rant about. It's that oh, this person has no life, and they were able to play the game for 200 hours and unlock the like mega super, BFG or whatever, and I'm still a bazillion points away from that. And so I am at such a huge disadvantage being because I mean, realistically, if I game an hour a day, that's a pretty good week for me. Like that's as much as I'm really going to be able to game. And so these no-lifers get in there, or like a Destiny example, someone who literally just happened to play the game at the right time got this exotic shotgun.
Fellwinter's Lie? Much?
Has like, yeah, exactly. And so if you didn't play during that time, you're already at a disadvantage. And so for me, I love playing chess, but if you give someone 6 or 7 queens, that is no longer a fun game for me. And so, and again, I don't know if that happens in Warzone, but what are your kind of thoughts on that?
So that's about, for me, it's about my patience level and my time commitment. And like, there are still ways to beat someone with Fellwinter's Lie in Destiny. It's called never going in within shotgun range, right? But that's hard to do. And there may be a second gun.
Is so fast.
Yeah, and there may be a second gun that's OP, like a scout rifle. Haha, that was a joke. There are no scout rifles that are good right now.
Well, Dead Man's Tale, maybe.
A pulse rifle or something
sad.
in Destiny that is just OP as well. Like, I can't remember the name. It's the 5 burst shot. Anyway, Vigilance Wings. Thank you. There may be another reason why, if there's too many of those reasons why you are just at a disadvantage. Like if you're already at a disadvantage on gun skill, and then how many of those things can you reasonably affect yourself? And for me, it's like a lot of people, myself included, aren't really honest about their own areas of improvement, right? And that's what I like relentless, because I really want to have fun. Like if you haven't heard on this podcast, that's really all I'm here for. It's like, how can I have fun? And then I'm also a competitive guy. How can I have fun and beat them, right? And how can I change the way I play and experience success? That's why I love Warzone right now, because there's 100 decisions you have to make in a match of Warzone.
Do you play Warzone solo or with people?
With people.
Okay. Do you play solo? Have you ever played solo?
I do, to practice.
Is it still fun when you play solo, or is
not
it not
as fun?
Yeah.
So that's another thing that we should talk about is like cooperative PvP, because that's a huge thing. I'll finish my point though. But when it comes to how many of those disadvantages can I control for? Okay, well, pathing can keep me out of a situation that pits me against that person where they have the advantage, right? I can take away their advantage by never letting them see me, or trying not to, right? By being on the side of the room that it's harder for them to shoot, whatever. I can also be with my teammates. It's like, how many things can you control that help get to the point of you having an advantage in the situation, and then, eventually with enough advantages, you'll start winning, or you'll start succeeding. And that's why team shots in Trials of Osiris is so important. It's like, unless you guys are just absolute amazing players, like, it makes sense to stick together and all shoot the same person, because then the time to kill is cut into a third, right? And anyway, if there are enough disadvantages that you can't control for them, like cheaters in Warzone, or Fellwinter's up close and Vigilance Wings at range, like, if there's enough things, that's when I start to get disengaged, right? That's when I start to be like, I'm willing to change myself, and I'm willing to improve what I can improve. But when it's beyond that, and it's beyond my scope of control, then I'm like, okay, well, this isn't fun anymore, because there's nothing I can do. I will always lose. Unless they screw up. And that's not fun, right? That's playing against that's playing Grandmaster chess player, which it's like, unless they screw up, you're not going to win. It's like, well, I don't want to play against a Grandmaster chess player. So that's how I feel about it. I absolutely understand.
Yeah.
Like when it feels like there are so many disadvantages, whether it is your own skill or experience level or like familiar with the controls or like I totally understand not wanting to engage in a PvP game. And that I will never judge anyone for not wanting to play.
Yeah. Remind me sometime to go on my like Destiny PvP is terrible rant sometime, because I want to like it's not for this episode, but I want to hear your opinions. Maybe we'll do an after hours
I'll
about
probably
it.
be on your side because I quit Destiny because the PvP sucked.
Stasis ruined Destiny PvP.
It did. Yep. And I don't.
Oh my goodness! Not
Yes, okay.
not the right show.
We need a stop button. Stop.
And I yes, so I think maybe that's where for me it comes down to is if I'm playing with people, like personally I'd rather do like a cooperative event like a raid or a strike or some high level PvE thing. But I do have fun when I'm playing with people in PvP. You know, when I play by myself, I don't know, it's not as fun. Sometimes I have successes, but it feels like the majority of time I'm just spinning my wheels and dying, It just feels like it feels like you're talking about like the person that I'm facing is some amped up AI that has unfair advantages that I do. I know they don't, but just that level seems so like far out of my reach. Like the movement, their positioning, I'm just like, how are they, like they're jumping over me and like shooting me from behind after they jump over me. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, how do they do that? How are they able to keep their reticle on you while they jump and do all this gymnastics?
Yeah.
And it's like,
and it's console, so I don't know how the cheating is in consoles, but I feel like it's harder to do. I don't know.
No, it's easier actually.
Okay, I don't
It's
know.
buying.
I mean,
it's buying a controller. There's a certain controller you get that like plugs in, and it controls things and keeps your recoil down. And yeah, it's also a problem in Warzone, but not as big of a problem.
Well, see, I don't know, but it just seems like I'm playing these people and like just the difference in skill, both gunplay, movement, it's just light years. And I'm here at the bottom of the rank. I just want to get my 3 games in and then I'm done, because I'm just like
for the bounties.
Yeah, because I feel it feels bad playing. But like Iron Banner, when we play together, that's fun. We don't always win, but you're in a group and you're playing together,
and you're all contributing.
And that is fun. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, but I do want to play. I've never played a battle royale game. I've never played a Fortnite. I've never played PubG. I've never played Warzone.
Those actually you might vibe with. Like you might like those. I didn't want to go too into it because I have lots of bottled up thoughts about Warzone, but when it comes down to it, all of those advantages that I said, I talk about kind of growing and how do you figure out what advantages you can gain. There are a million of those in Warzone. So like you can go get contracts, and there are PvP contracts called bounties where you go try and kill a team, or there are PvE bounty contracts, which is like supply run. It's like you go and to a buy station. You just have to get to the other side, and once you get there, you get a free buy. It's like then you can buy radar or other kill streak bonuses. That's cool. There are also because there's scav, which gives you money and guns, so like you can do that really early on. So there's strategies you can do that avoid people. Like there's ways you can play as a super sweaty, super aggressive, just cracked out streamer god or whatever, and just go kill everyone you see if you can do it. Side note, I got really frustrated because me and my squad were doing that, and we didn't really realize that we weren't that good. And so it's like looking back on it, it's like we all get into a truck, we've got our cowboy hats, we're like, woo, yeah, and we're like, let's go get him, and we drive into a wall. It's like we don't have it. But
did you ever play Division Survival?
I didn't know.
Because that came out, I feel like that came out before a lot of these battle royale games.
Was it a battle royale or?
Wait, which
Division, the
game?
first one. There was a DLC that came out called Survival, and it's
Oh, okay.
it was like a thing where you start on the edge of a map, and it's in New York, and the map slowly condenses because of the storm. You have to get to the center to extract out of there.
That's effectively
That's Fortnite
You
and
know.
Warzone, yeah.
so.
But
Yeah, that's what
yeah,
it is.
but there was, there were, the only way to get equipment is you have to go like start shooting like mobs, and then there were like tougher mobs, and sometimes you couldn't deal with them because you didn't have enough weapons, and the closer you got to the center, the harder everything became. And when you finally called in the extraction point, other players could be attacking you, but there were also what they called hunters, which were like souped up AI, and they were killable, but it was tough. It felt like another player.
That sounds really fun.
It
Yeah.
was.
No, it was.
Oh, was it?
Did you play
miserable.
it? Did you play it?
Yeah. To me, the Division Darkness
Well,
zones
well,
were like.
okay. There's the dark zone, but this is survival. It's a different
Yeah.
game mode.
But it still had the like you had to extract the gear, right?
No.
That mechanic
In,
was.
in survival,
Okay,
you had to extract
because-
yourself basically. In the dark zone,
Yeah. Oh.
in
that's
dark
right,
zone
that's right.
you would loot, but the only way
Yeah.
to get out of the dark zone is you had to go and extract it, and it took like a minute for your helicopter to get there, and in that minute, people could attack you and take your stuff.
Yeah. And people just camped the Division PvP was like the worst PvP I've ever played in my life. It was the most
I mean,
unfun
unless
experience
you were
I think
good
I've
at
ever
it,
had. But
then
you're
it
right.
would be solution.
Survival was better. I was just so turned off by Division at that point that
So
that
Well,
wasn't
the one thing
too
that
into it.
might kill that type of mode for me in Division is your weapon level, like your gear level. Like, did you have to level up? Was there like a gate or a gear check?
As you got closer, the enemies got tougher, and when you killed them, your gear just went up as you came in closer.
Oh,
So, and then once you got inside like the center area, like the center area itself was like a blocked off area that you got into. Once you got in there were like safes, like safe rooms that you could go and craft like your gold weapons. Like you couldn't find gold weapons, but you're gathering resources, you're coming in, and once you get to the center, then you can craft your gold stuff depending on how much materials you have.
that
so you
sounds
could
like
It was pretty unique.
a wonderful game whose only fault is being tacked onto the Division.
Yeah, and people have been asking for it to come back for a long time. 'Cause
Yeah.
it was, and the nice thing about this is that you could do the PvE or PvP version of the game.
Right.
So in the PvE version, you could see other people, but you couldn't attack them. But like you could not help them and take their loot when they got killed. Whereas in the PvP, you could straight out kill people as you're going along. You know? So there were two kind of game modes that you could play in that. And I feel like that came out in like 2016.
Yeah, it was before the Battle Royale craze.
And it was its only problem, I think, is that it didn't have randomized loot or loot locations. I think the loot was always in the same place. But you would it would randomize where you would spawn on the outer edges of the map.
Interesting.
But like, so it was fun.
Sounds like a not quite perfect, but very fun game mode. Like, if they made random loot and then have it completely randomized where it is, like have potential drop spots, and then have it a lot more like available. Like, not instead of having like 7 loot points, you have literally hundreds, and you could have attachments or stuff like that. It'd be like PubG basically.
There's a new Division game coming out called Heartland. And it's set, I guess, in the Midwest somewhere in like a rural area. But it's going to be free to play. And no one yet knows what the gameplay is going to be like. And everyone's kind of hoping it's going to be like a survival-like game mode. But
yeah. I'm not a super fan of...
So you've touched on...
Go ahead. I was just going to say,
Crack.
super quick comment. I'm not really a fan of games that set up an antagonistic scenario inside the United States, because we're all United States citizens here. So it's like, oh yeah, those people in Wisconsin, we hate them. It turns out they're really bad. Let's go kill them in the game. It's
Wow.
like, no.
Wait, we don't?
I mean,
No.
Division has
Oh, yes,
problematic
we love
enemies.
Wisconsin.
Like they basically have the poor people that you're, that you're going out to kill because they're rioting.
Great!
There's
Poor
also,
people suck.
Yeah,
Let's get on that bandwagon.
Oh yeah, it's so bad. Like the actual like plot of the Division is pretty pretty heinous.
The plot is kind of interesting because it's like about someone releasing a super virus on Black Friday and it's spreading.
Sorry, the way that you go about the plot is pretty
it's
heinous.
like you're
let's actually sorry, let me go ahead and stop us there because Division is an interesting topic. Maybe we can cover, like, we can figure out how to put that in an episode in the future and about the plot and all that. But yeah, let's say that for another time.
Yeah, I'll tangent us off that because Emiliano, what you're talking about there brings up a couple of good things about how kind of Division did battle royales before battle royales were big. How Division was a live service,
it kind of failed in that.
Kind of to bring it, I don't want to say full circle or but like what Clint was talking about towards the beginning about how there's not a lot of like dedicated single player games like currently anymore, like in the past few years kind of thing. To me, that is an industry thing where everyone is trying to bandwagon on the latest thing. And like, I don't know what we're kind of getting into now because we're kind of on the tail end of the Battle Royale thing. But, you know, when Fortnite exploded, everyone's like, oh, we got to get us in on that Fortnite money. Let's make whatever game we have and tack a Battle Royale on it. Destiny was one of the first big shooters to do, like, the live service thing. We're like, oh, we got to get on that live service money. And then Anthem and Division and all that sort of stuff came out.
Fallout.
And so...
Fallout 76.
Oh, yeah. Jeez.
Well, I think the big...
And so I think that's why a lot of single-player games are not as prevalent is because they're not as bandwagony, I guess. Like, it's not as easy for, like, big studios to cash in on them.
Well, yeah, there's money to be made in these, like, loot crates and gotcha mechanics where you're, you know...
like
the game I played,
microtransactions.
Genshin Impact, you know.
Yeah.
It's huge. But the thing about Genshin Impact is they are constantly releasing new substantial content that makes me want to play it. Like there's an event now going on in there where you're going to these islands and like doing stuff, and the islands are slowly changing as the time progresses, you know. Like at first it was only like 3 islands. Now the land masses like rose up out of it's interesting. So I just feel like, you know, and Destiny is also going that way too with their transmog system. The process just feels very dirty, you know. It feels very like, you know, they just want money, and it rewards people that play a hell of a lot, you know, because the only way to get everything is to play a lot, because it has that 2-minute mechanic, you know. So a lot of these games I feel are doing this live service to push their, you know, microtransactions, to push their loot crates. Like the game that just came out, Outriders. Like, it was a fun game, but it was a live service. It had a live service mechanic where you had to be logged in to their servers to play, which was stupid. Like, there was no reason for that. It almost seemed like they had that in there so they could later add some sort of like loot crates or something to hook people.
Like Avengers did?
Well, Avengers, like, I hear the story was great, but then everything else sucked after that, you know. But yeah, like, you know, whereas there was a game like that Jedi Fallen Order that came out that made bank, and it was a single player game, you know, and it didn't have all the microtransaction crap, the live service crap, you know.
Yeah, and what you're hitting on there, I think, is a huge reason we see so many live service, multiplayer, PvP kind of games is because they are so much easier to monetize. Will a studio monetize a single player game? Absolutely. They're gonna make their money however they
get away
can.
with it.
But it's a lot easier.
I actually would like to add my 2 cents onto this, which is I don't think it's true.
Not enough for microtransaction.
I don't think that single players are, you know, I don't think single players are any more rare than they've ever been. Like, the indie scene has exploded, and it's just absolutely shown
True.
that the single player experience is thriving. It's better than it's ever been. Like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is the reason I want a PS5.
Horizon Zero Dawn is the reason why I want a PS5.
Yes, and if they actually started with the PS5 dev kit so that they can actually use some of the features that Ratchet and Clank did, like the instant loading from memory and just like the empty cache, like the large like level cache. I don't even know that much about it. I don't know anything about it, but mad transfer speeds within the system. No load screens, all of that. If they can use that, that would be fantastic. But my point is that there are so many games that came out, even in the last 10 years since that, misguided executives said that. Big AAA games that have absolutely had wild success. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, right? Dying Light is a co-op game. So, for me, I think co-op games, are they dead? No. I think they're not as monetizable as they could be. So a lot of companies, a lot of big publishers are putting a whole lot more money into becoming the next Fortnite or whatever. Or actually now Warzone. Warzone makes hundreds of millions of dollars a year. It's kind of crazy. And or Genshin Impact. I'm sure Genshin Impact is going to cause some alliance of crappy publishers and mobile games to try and build out the next Genshin Impact, right? That being said, the gaming industry is the big, as far as I understand it, so please don't quote me on this, I haven't looked this up at all, but the gaming industry is now the biggest media industry in the world. And what does that mean? Well, even if Fortnite is 2.4 billion or whatever it was in the last 3 or 4 years, the whole gaming industry is trillions, if not tens of billions. Okay, I'm starting to throw out numbers. I don't know. The gaming industry is huge. That's all I'm trying to say.
It's big numbers.
So we're fact check, please.
Yeah, every single one of these games that makes sells this many million copies or whatever. It's there are so many other games that are making it and selling well, and Hades. There's so many games out there that have nothing to do with PvP. And have nothing that are co-op or are single player. That's just I don't buy it. The gaming industry is large and thriving, and it couldn't be any better, in my opinion. Well, it can be better, but everything can be better. It's awesome. It's awesome to be a gamer right now.
So, tangent on that, or asterisk, whatever. Do you know what the largest subsection of gaming is as far as money goes?
Do you have the answer?
Mobile games.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There are more mobile games, there are more mobile game players, and more money in mobile games than any console, any PC game ever has, and probably ever will be.
Because I feel like it was a recent addition when they started adding these loot crates into the console or PC games, and that was because of mobile. The big publishers wanted that mobile money, and mobile money is in these gacha loot crate mechanics, So, yeah, that makes sense. It's easy to play.
So what you're saying, Ronan, is by you supporting Genshin Impact, you're part of the problem. That's what I'm hearing.
I probably am, but I feel like...
That was a joke. You weren't supposed to agree with me.
I mean, I feel I am. But I feel like at this point, Genshin has kind of earned some of that money, just with, like Clint was saying, the enjoyment, the gameplay, the fun has been there for me, So yeah. Like with Destiny.
Hey, if you feel like it's money well spent, more power to you, man. As long as it's not hurting, your ability to pay bills or buy food.
Oh yeah, no, I'm never gonna go to that level.
Monetization practices are another podcast. So let's not beat up Ronan Emiliano for his gotcha spending.
No,
but I do. Not saying you were. I'm just saying we should talk about that sometime. I just looked it up. Wikipedia says that in 2018, so 3 years ago, the gaming industry was over 120 billion total. So we are
Nice.
probably, and it's been on an exponential curve. It probably isn't really an exponential curve, but it's curving up. So it is forecasted to be worth, what was that? 230 billion by 2022.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's all I'm trying to say is like PvP.
I gotta make me a mobile game.
Fortnite and Warzone and all those big games are like a little teeny slice. So what is the rest of the gaming industry? You're right, it's probably mobile games, but I'm gonna say that a lot of them are single player games too.
Oh,
Well, I think that there's a lot of indie games, like you were saying, makes up, like there's just tiny, tiny dots of indie games everywhere, which I support. Yeah, I think it's great that there's a lot of indie games. Sorry to
no,
cut
no.
you off there,
It's. I was gonna say, Dying Light. They have a lot of skin packs that you can buy also.
Mm-hmm. They
So-
had I can talk about that briefly.
Are you encouraging
No,
microtransactions
no, I'm just-
at this point?
You're
Like,
talking
what's
about
going
single player
on?
games not
And
having
monetization.
any sort of monetization. So
Yeah,
Oh,
which
okay.
I'll be honest. First of all, I'm not above microtransactions, so I don't want to act like pretentious or snooty or whatever about like I never spend money on microtransactions. I spent probably $300 on Mass Effect 3 multiplayer microtransactions when at the time in my life I should not have. It was just so fun. But I did buy some Dying Light 2 skins and gun packs. Because it's not like it is kind of pay to win because they give you some pretty good guns, but it really just enhances the fun that you have in the game. And it's just completely offline unless you play with somebody online game. And I love video game companies that love their game. And those in charge love their game. And Dying Light 2 developer, they love their game. They supported that. They had free DLC for years, like 4 or 5 years
great.
after they released their game. It came out in 2015, and they just released a new pack. So it's 6 years later, they've got a new DLC for their game.
And they're substantial DLC. Like it's not like an easy cash grab. It's like they
5-10
invested.
hours minimum of gameplay, and it's probably some type of repeatable experience. I think it is because it's like a dungeon. It's like a dungeon crawler where you get in with your party
It's so
and you go
crazy.
in. Yeah, it's
like a hack and slash.
Yes.
It's a literal dungeon. You're fighting skeletons and it's like Dungeons and Dragons. It's great.
Well, that's what I think. I don't think single player games or co-op games are dead. I think they're alive and thriving, and while there could be more, there probably is, and we should just try and go find them. Maybe in terms of AAA releases, there could be more. But yeah.
Wish there were.
I love both PvP and PvE games. It's great. I love games. Games are great.
Yeah. See, I think my caveat with that is that I'm more of a, like, if I'm doing single player, I like the more PvE, because I feel like I have a better time.
Mm-hmm. Good.
But if I'm doing co-op, I don't mind PvP. I'll do PvP then. But I just don't have the same amount of enjoyment solo as I do playing single player type games.
I'm with Ronan on
I
this.
honestly...
Not to say you're wrong.
No, for sure.
Clint.
And I honestly play PvP games with people much, much more than I play alone. In fact, I can't think of a game that I played PvP more than like the token 5 to 10 hours. Or maybe even 30 if I was really into it. Like Titanfall, I played for like 30 or 50 hours alone. I think I prestiged like 3 times because it was just so fun to grapple off and parkour, wall run. All that stuff was so fun. It was just like, this is so fun. I could figure out ways to kill really good people by like juking them and like getting. I was better at moving than they were, so they couldn't hit me anymore. I like doing that. I like getting advantages in PvP games. Anyway, I will play with people. If I don't have people to play with, chances are I won't actually play the game for very long.
Oh, so when are we doing our Dying Light run through? We gotta set that up.
I'll do it.
We talked about that last time. So
I'll do it. I will buy the game for Xbox so we can play it together.
I think I have it on disc, but I might just buy it buy it again just
So
to support.
you've played it before, Ronan. Now we're scheduling a gaming session. Maybe we should end the podcast.
Yeah,
It's
we'll
been an hour.
talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
Solid plan.
Okay. Well, looks like the kill counter in this episode has reached its maximum, and it's time for us to wrap up. As always, we welcome you to tell us how we're wrong, what we've missed, and generally what your opinions are. You can tell us on our YouTube channel, Winning Sometimes Show, where we'll have video for this and other episodes. We have Twitter, W Sometimes Show. Winning Sometimes Show was too long. We sometimes game on twitch.tv/Winning Sometimes Show, or you can yell at us in our email box at show@winningsometimes.com. Finally, we have a website, winningsometimes.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.